A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There was another tragic shooting, which obviously has renewed calls for gun control. And equally obvious is that infringing on law abiding citizens' rights is not the answer. But I have the answer. So let's get after it. Now, I haven't addressed the shooting at Appalachian High School in Georgia yet because I wanted to wait until there were more details, till there was more information, and I had other things going on as well. So I would have liked to have done it a little bit sooner than this, but here we are. In the beginning, when this first happened, as usual, leftists used it as another opportunity to push for gun control. And this is despite the fact that none of the laws currently on the books or the proposed laws that they have on their wish list, none of those laws would have prevented this tragedy. It's sad, but it is reality that none of the infringements that they want to impose on us would have prevented this shooter from doing what he did. He got the gun legally as a gift. Well, his father broke a couple of laws by giving it to him and allowing him access to it, but it was legally obtained. It was legally obtained, and obviously he broke laws by taking it into the school and shooting up his classmates and his teachers and everything like that. So let's just make that perfectly clear. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the details of the shooting and the FBI investigation into him and all of that, other than to point out that this is yet another example of a troubled young man with a troubled background, a documented history of mental health issues, who was also on law enforcement's radar. This kid needed help. This kid needed help, and apparently he had been asking for it. He had been asking for it, and he never got the help that he desperately needed. And there were social media accounts posted, connected to him, that posted threats. And one of those accounts had a username that was in Cyrillic letters, in Russian. And when you spell those letters out, it translated into Lanza, which obviously is the name of the shooter in the Sandy Hook massacre. And he also expressed admiration for the shooter at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. He denied making these threats. He denied having these accounts, even though they were connected to him. And the FBI and the Sheriff's Department investigated this kid and his father. And for some reason, they couldn't find anything to pursue. So they closed the case. Of course, this brought out all the usual suspects, yammering and opining about gun control, assault weapons, civilians shouldn't have AR-15s, yada, yada, yada. Most of these people, though, didn't even wait for the bodies to be released from the crime scene. And I say that like I am surprised or this is unusual, but this is what they do every single time.
And I do want to say a few words about this tragic shooting that took place this morning in Winder, Georgia. We're still gathering information about what happened, but we know that there were multiple fatalities and injuries. And, our hearts are with all the students, the teachers, and their families, of course. And we are grateful to the first responders and the law enforcement that were on the scene. But this is just a senseless tragedy. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive.
She's right. She's right. But she's about to get it so wrong.
It's senseless. It is, we've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and
Yeah, we do. We do. But taking the guns away from law-abiding citizens is not the way to do it.
for all. It doesn't have to be this way. So we will continue, of course, to send our prayers and our thoughts to the families and all those who were affected.
Okay, this is a little off topic, but this is a pet peeve of mine. We do not send prayers to the families. We send prayers to the Lord. We send prayers to Jesus Christ. We pray to him for comfort for these families. We don't pray to the families. And I know that's a nitpick, and to some people might be a minor thing, but to me it's a pet peeve that I really just cannot stand. Anyway.
A lot of us, I'll speak about myself, we had, I grew up in California, earthquake drills, we had fire drills, but our kids are sitting in a classroom where they should be fulfilling their God-given potential, and some part of their big, beautiful brain is concerned about a shooter busting through the door of the classroom. It does not have to be this way. And so, as an example, let us finally pass an assault weapons ban and universal background checks and red flag laws. Because we are clear on that point, it is a false choice to say you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and I know we need reasonable gun safety laws in our country.
It's not a false choice. The Second Amendment says, shall not be infringed. And what these people fail to realize, even though that there are 30,000 laws on the books, whenever they say reasonable, it's never going to end there. It's never going to end at what some people may compromise as reason. We've compromised entirely too much as it is when it comes to the Second Amendment. And frankly, conservatives have compromised too much as it is regarding every major issue that we confront right now. But staying on the Second Amendment, it's not a false choice. You cannot be for the Second Amendment and then call for red flag laws and universal background checks and all the rest of the nonsense that they have on their wish list. It is a binary choice. Either you're for the Second Amendment or you're infringing on our rights. It's that plain and simple. And I mean, it's their only move. And banning guns is not going to solve the problem. Banning guns is not going to solve the problem. Look at all the places, California, Chicago, New York. All these places have very strict gun control laws in place, and all of these places have ridiculously high gun violence rates. And what people fail to realize is when you take away places like Chicago and LA and New York, when you take them out of the equation when it comes to gun violence, the United States drops from whatever it is, like 7th or 8th in the world, down to like 35th. It drops that dramatically. And common sense, they like to use this term common sense gun laws. common sense dictates that they have not thought through the issue. They either they haven't thought it through, or they have thought it through and don't care what the common sense dictates. I have several guns, and I have left them alone on occasion, and none of them over the years have ever gotten up and just shot somebody. I've left them alone and come back, and they are right where I left them, with nobody having been shot with them. I wonder why that is. I don't wonder. That was a rhetorical question, obviously. But I think most law-abiding gun owners can make that boast, that none of their guns have ever shot anyone. And as I said, there are over 30,000 gun laws on the books between state, local, and federal jurisdictions. And in every mass shooting, well, actually, in every shooting that's not a result of self-defense or negligent discharge, in every shooting, other than those circumstances, laws were broken. Laws were already broken. So it's not like you can make it more illegaler. It doesn't work that way. So the more gun laws that they put on the books just means that they are going, and make no mistake, Kamalama Ding Dong is for mandatory compensated confiscation. They call it buybacks. But I think it was Cam Edwards from I can't think of his podcast right now, but Cam Edwards coined the term, at least he was the first one I heard say it, compensated confiscation, which is, like I said, mandatory buyback. So more laws are not the answer here.
First of all, what happened in Georgia is just an awful tragedy. And I know we've got a lot of parents and a lot of grandparents in this room. I mean, I cannot imagine, little kids so excited to go back to school. God love them. And they're at their first week back from the summer, and an absolute barbarian decides to open fire and take their lives and also a couple teachers. We got to think about these people. If you're the praying type, and I know I am, we got to hold them up in prayer. We got to be hoping for the best for this incredible community, because no parent should have to deal with this. No child should have to deal with this. And yes, after holding these folks up in prayer and giving them,
that's how you do it. Hold them up in prayer. You don't pray to them. But anyway,
our sympathies, because that's what people deserve in a time of tragedy. Then we have to think about how to make this less common. Now look, the Kamala Harris answer to this is to take law-abiding American citizens' guns away from them. That is what Kamala Harris wants to do. But we have to ask ourselves, we actually have been able to run an experiment on this, because you've got some states with very strict gun laws, and you've got some states that don't have strict gun laws at all. And the states with strict gun laws, they have a lot of school shootings. And the states without strict gun laws, some of them have school shootings too. So clearly, strict gun laws is not the thing that is going to solve this problem. What is going to solve this problem, and I really do believe this, is, look, I don't like this. I don't like to admit this. I don't like that this is a fact of life. But if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. And we have got to bolster security at our schools so that a person who walks through the front door We've got to bolster security so that if a psycho wants to walk through the front door and kill a bunch of children, they're not able to.
Fact. 100% fact. He is absolutely correct. We do need to harden these soft targets. And our schools are absolutely soft targets. But that's not it. That's not where it ends. That is part of the answer. I mean, we have men with guns protecting celebrities, protecting politicians, protecting our money in banks, protecting our museums, protecting our sports arenas, protecting other high value targets. But they have said on numerous occasions, Kamalama Ding Dong included, that we should not have armed security in our schools. I have said many, many times on this channel and things that I've written that they hate you. They hate you and they hate your children. Because if they want to protect everything but your children, if they want to protect everything but your children with guns, do you need any other evidence that they hate you? Do you need any other evidence that I'm right on that point? They love their celebrities. They love their politicians. They love their money. They love their sports. And they protect all of that with guns. But they don't want to protect your children with guns. But having armed security, locking doors, having some sort of verification system during school hours, metal detectors, all of that seems like common sense measures that will protect our kids. But as I said before, none of the current laws and none of the laws that are on their wish list would have prevented this tragedy. The FBI and the Sheriff's Department that were investigating him probably could have done something more than what they did, but that's a discussion for another time that we can get into at a later date. But the actual answer is coming back to God. Cain killed Abel with a rock. Places that don't have as much access to guns, people kill people with knives, swords, bombs, scissors, vehicles. It happens all the time in places that restricts guns to the degree that the left wants to do here. And even here in places that do have strict, well, all over the country. Just look at the FBI's uniform crime report. People kill people with knives, like I said, hammers, fists, baseball bats, bricks. And most of those weapons are responsible for a lot more murder and mayhem than the scary AR-15. But getting back to the point, we have to get back to God, because people who have a relationship with God, or people who don't have a relationship with God, will find a way to commit evil, regardless of the tool that they have to use to hit their goal, so to speak. This kid in Georgia, by all accounts, had a very troubled home life, a terrible home life. His father was abusive and neglectful. His mother had legal troubles of her own and some drug issues and things like that. Now, to her credit, she did try to get him help. She did call the school and let them know that she thought that he might be a danger. And then she got in her car and tried to get there. And unfortunately, on the way to the school, she found out that the tragedy she was trying to prevent had taken place. So despite her legal troubles, she was clearly trying to do the right thing by her son. But what would have really helped, what would have been the most help for this kid and would have done the most to prevent this tragedy, is if both of his parents were committed to God, both of his parents were in the home and prayed over him and committed themselves and committed their family to God and raised him in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And I'm not saying that that prevents it all the time. We live in a fallen world rife with evil, where the devil and his minions wreak havoc over people who do try to serve God, but things happen. These things do happen. But I guarantee you that if more of us were committed to God, if more of us had a relationship with him, that would reduce these events drastically. It all starts with men. Men have to get back to a relationship with God. We have to start raising our families, committing to our wives, and bring our families back into a relationship with God. Once we do that, as I just said, a lot of these tragedies, a lot of the evil that we see in this world, because let's face it, most of it is committed by young men who don't have fathers in the home. And as much as the government and women like to say that they don't need men, the evidence would suggest otherwise. Anyway, folks, that's all I got for you this time. I will try to do better on the next one. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share these videos so that we can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and his message of love and hope and liberty, so that we can preserve that for the future generations. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.